Another relationship down the toilet. It seems that most women want to deceive or want to get into a relationship under the false pretenses. What do I mean by that? Well, why do women always insist on, a dinner date or a vacation date as a first date? Yes, I've had quite a few of those. Leo, I don't do dinner dates. I do European vacations, or I do a dinner cruise, or I do, a cruise in the Mediterranean. Yes, that happens. Of course, that is the exception. That is not the norm. But what is the norm is the fact that most women want to deceive. I don't think they do it intentionally. I really believe they don't do it intentionally, but subconsciously they want to put their best foot forward. But what does that mean? They want to put on the tight dress, the fake nails, a ton of makeup, and the spandex, and try and squeeze everything into a tight little package, right? But what do men want, right? And I take full responsibility for creating two divorces, for a train wreck of broken relationships in my life. I take full responsibility for that. I was always away. I was always traveling or always busy with business, and I caused the divorces. I take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for all the broken relationships in my past. So all but one. I had one awesome relationship that was pre-designed, and I called her the love of my life. Unfortunately, she moved to Mexico. But going back to what I was saying, women understand that there's a 90% divorce rate. Yes, when you factor in all the people that stay together because of the kids, all the people that stay together because they don't want to split 50% of their assets, there's a 90% divorce rate, which means only about 10% of the people who are in married or in a relationship would consider themselves happy. I want to be deliriously happy. To Wei, I was deliriously happy for 7 years with the love of my life who moved to Mexico. So going back to what women want on the first date, what men want, or what men should want. Women want to put their best foot forward. They want to put the tight dress, the makeup, the perfect hair, the eyelashes that come out to here, and they want to deceive because most women know all they have is their looks, right? When you ask a woman to jump on a Zoom call before the first date, they're saying, "Oh no, I'm giving up 90% of my advantage. No, I'm not going to do that." When you ask them to depend on their personality alone, oh no, there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. But isn't that what happens, 6 months after sex or after the first 12 months? Eventually, you're going to put on the sweatpants. You're going to put on the sweatshirt. Eventually, you're going to, put your hair up in a ponytail, right? So women want to project this false image of themselves. Men want to see behind the curtain. I want to meet your mother. I want to know what you're going to look like 40 years from today. I want to know what you look like in sweats. I want to know what you look like and what your personality is like without the makeup. I want to know who you are. I don't want this, false facade that you're projecting. I don't want to know that, right? So how can we get behind that bullshit? Because this is where, 90% of the divorce rate comes from. Men want one thing, females want another thing, and there's no effort to bridge that Grand Canyon divide between male and female expectations. There's no effort. I offered to compromise. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, can't do that. Because I'm on the road to a 90% divorce rate, why would I want to change? If we know the outcome of our efforts and we still don't change, to me, that's lunacy. I've been interviewing 52 divorcing couples. One of my buddies is a divorce lawyer, so he introduces me to a lot of divorcing couples. And what I'm trying to find out, the research that I'm trying to find out is, at one point, these two people said, "I love you, I want to build my life with you, I can't live without you," and next day, "I want a divorce. You're fucking awful, I want a divorce." What happened, right? What happened? Well, what I'm starting to realize is either we are building trust. Either we are building a trusted relationship or we are building resentment before we meet. Okay? The damage starts. We decide whether we want to build trust or resentment before we meet. It starts when with our mindset and how we write our profile on dating websites. How we write our profile determines what our mindset is, and at that point, we are determining whether we're going to deceive or we're going to create a trusted relationship. Whether we're going to create that trusted relationship or create resentment. Either we're going to compromise and we're going to communicate, or we're going to build the resentment, right? And men, and this message is for men now. Men, if you say, well, I always pay for my first dates. I always pay for everything. I always pay. I used to do that. I was that type of person as well. To me, that's a person who's insecure, who doesn't believe they bring a lot of value to the table. I used to pay for everything. My friends would go out, I pick up the check. I would go on the first date, pick up the check, right? But that's insecurity on my part, extreme insecurity on my part, where I felt I have to buy friends. I don't need to buy friends. Yes, I'm still insecure, and yes, I still pick up the check, which I shouldn't. And when I go out to dinner dates with my ex and pick up, a check for 10 people because I'm the only male on the table, no, that's extreme insecurity. I never felt good about doing that. It's not about the money. It's the fact that the women at the table didn't respect me and felt the only reason why I was at the table was to pick up the check. Right? That's not respect. That's not anywhere near respect. Now, take that further to your first date. Now, women, and the reason why this relationship just ended is because she's saying, oh, it's not about the money. It's about, a nice ambiance, a nice place to have a conversation. And that's a fair statement. If we're going to spend every day of our lives inside restaurants and we have no outside life, we're not going to go biking or hiking or traveling or doing anything else, or gardening or playing pickleball or anything else, then you're right. We should do that and only do that. But if that only represents a very small portion of our lives, then why should we start with a falsehood, right? Most of the time, I'm going to be wearing, track pants or shorts and wearing a baseball cap. So why should I put on a suit and pretend I'm a person that I'm not? I haven't worn a suit in 4 years since COVID. So why should I pretend I'm a person that I'm not? Why start a relationship? Why design a relationship with lies? I don't get it. When you look at relationships, 80% of women start the divorce rate. Lesbian divorce rates are 75%. Gay men relationships are 25%. Okay, so based on those numbers, where are the challenges? Where are the problems coming from? Where are the problems being initiated? Right? I want to design the perfect relationship. It starts with communication. It starts with understanding numbers. It starts with understanding what both sides desire. And it starts with building or designing that relationship to make sure both people are satisfied. Right? In my last relationship, we would have, I'm not going to use her real name. We would have, Tiffany days. That's not her real name. And every weekend was a Tiffany day. How many Leo days do you think we had in 7 years? I rest my case. Please post your questions, comments below. I would love to hear what you think.